If you're a fan of Tool and Danny Carey's drumming, then you've come to the right place, because here we're diving into some of Danny's mind-bending drum grooves, and I'm going to be breaking them down so you can start jamming with some of your favorite Tool songs. With that, let's dive in. To start off, we're looking at the opening track from the album Lateralis. This is the Grudge, and this one has some crazy drum parts in it. So make sure you check out the track if you haven't heard it already. Here we're looking at the outro where Maynard comes in with that classic scream that you hear in the studio version. Now, this is a 4-bar tom groove. We've got 3 bars of 5/8 and 1 bar of 6/8. And we're using a Swiss Army triplet bass sticking with the flams played as unison strokes. And if you know Danny's playing, you know that he uses this sticking pattern all the time. And you're going to hear it in tracks like Rosetta Stoned and Pneuma as well, both of which we're going to look at later on, so stay tuned for that. Right now, let me play it for you slowly all together so you can see what it sounds like. So for me, the toughest part about this one is right at the beginning of the 4 bars, where you play that crash on the downbeat, you move to that bottom floor tom, and then you're back into the groove. For me, that's a bit of a tough transition, so make sure you start that slowly. But right now, let's bump it up so you can hear it all put together. Next up, we're looking at the verse groove from Sober off of the Undertow record from 1993, and we're looking at that open hi-hat groove that's just a classic Danny Carey part. We've got the open hi-hats happening up here, we've got doubles on the kick, and we have our snare on 2 and 4. Now, with this one, the one thing to pay attention for, probably the trickiest part, is making sure your hi-hats close right on each beat. You want to make sure that's clean and precise, just like the way Danny plays it. Let me show it to you slowly first, and then we'll bump it up after. Now, something you may not know about this track is Tool actually first recorded Sober on their 7/2 826 EP, and you can hear Danny playing a slightly different groove in the intro with the open hi-hats on the downbeats instead of the upbeats. So check this out, it's close, but it is a little bit different. Next up, we're looking at the bridge groove from Eulogy off of Pneuma from 1996. This is up there as one of Danny's most famous drum grooves, and what's cool about it is it incorporates a 4/3 polyrhythm. Now, before we go too far, let me just demo what a 4/3 polyrhythm is. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, but just know that for this one, you're going to be playing a 4/4 groove, and the hi-hat part is going to outline a 3-note grouping of 16th notes. So just looking at the hi-hat pattern, this is what it sounds like. So one thing you may have noticed there is there were a few breaks where Danny goes to play the backbeat. Follow along with the notation, you'll see where all of those are, but right now, let's put it all together slowly so you can see what the whole groove sounds like. Once you've got that, let's bump this up to the album tempo. Now, one thing I will mention is if you want to dive deeper into how all of these polyrhythms work, my good friend Aaron Edgar has an incredible course inside of Drumeo called The Polyrhythms of Tool, and you can check that out if you want to dive deeper into how all these polyrhythms actually work. Okay, so here we're back with another track off of Pneuma. This is 46 and 2, one of the band's most famous songs, and here we're looking at Danny's part in the chorus. We've got lots of cymbal shots happening. We've got a similar hi-hat pattern to what we played in Sober as well, so you'll already be familiar with that. Let me play it for you slowly, and then we'll bump it up after. All right, we're back with another track from Lateralis. This is the opening tom groove that Danny plays on the song Ticks and Leeches. This whole groove is played with the snare wires turned off, and Danny's just playing single strokes. There's no doubles, there's no triples or anything like that, just straight singles, with a bunch of accents placed throughout as well. Now, also note that when Danny plays this live, you'll see him play the very last two accents just on the snare, but the one we have notated here is what you hear on the record, which goes between the snare and the rack tom. Let me play it for you slowly so you can hear what this sounds like. Once you've got that, let's try this out at a faster tempo. Next up, we're looking at Schism, one of Danny's most famous drum grooves off of Lateralis. This song is phrased in groups of 5/8 and 7/8, which you hear outlined in the bass part. But if you want, you could also just think of this as longer phrases of 12/8 or even 6/8. Totally up to you how you want to count this out. So in the clip you just watched, you'll see Danny is playing those triplets on the hi-hats all as single strokes. So he's literally playing right, left, right, left. You could try out some other stickings, but that's what Danny is playing in that clip. Danny will also move this groove around the kit over to his wave drum. He has like an original 1994 wave drum over here. He'll move it around to the mandala pads, to the toms, and really this is just a masterclass in how to orchestrate a groove around the kit. Right now, let's check this out at a slow tempo. Make sure your snare wires are also turned off for this one, just like in Ticks and Leeches. Here we go. Once you got that, let's bump this up to the album tempo. so this next one is one that I know many of you have been waiting for. We're looking at Rosetta Stoned off of the 10,000 Days album, specifically the instrumental section about 7 minutes into the song. And this groove in particular is known in the drum community as one of Danny Carey's more impossible drum grooves. And honestly, it really is insane and took me a very long time to learn, even just preparing for this video. So we're gonna start with how Danny plays it on the record, and then in a few minutes, I'm gonna show you how he actually plays this on the acoustic kit as well, because there's some really cool variations that he does. This groove is in 3/4, which is outlined by the hi-hat foot and the left-hand backbeat. But there's a bunch of polyrhythms happening too, and that's what makes this really challenging. The right hand is implying a 4 feel over here on the mandala pads. The kick is outlining a 5/16 bass drum ostinato, which is totally insane. But let's start putting this together from the ground up and see how this all comes together. So first off, we're gonna be playing just the hi-hat foot and the right hand pattern together. That's where we're gonna start. We're gonna play quarter notes with the left foot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's gonna repeat over and over. Now over top of that, we're gonna add in the 4 feel, or we're gonna be implying the 4 feel over here on the mandala pads. So I'm gonna be moving between this first pad and the second one. So slowly, this is what that sounds like. All right, once you've got that happening, let's move on to adding in the left hand and playing some Swiss Army triplets over top of that hi-hat pattern. Gonna do this slowly. We're gonna embellish this a little bit more later on, but let's just focus on playing that rudiment over the hi-hats. All right, so now that you're comfortable playing that rudiment over top of the hi-hat pattern, we're gonna play the full hand pattern with the backbeat, with the official sticking pattern. And one thing to note here is you wanna make sure your snare wires are turned off as well, just like you've done with a bunch of other tool grooves that we've gone over so far. So let's try this out slowly and see how it goes. So this is getting a bit crazy already, but it gets even crazier. And this is the part that definitely made me throw a few sticks across the room, and maybe it'll make you do the same, who knows. But we're gonna be adding in the kick pattern, which is in 5/16. So the pattern we're gonna be playing on the kick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's hitting every first and third partial of that grouping. So let's add this in. This is very hard to do, so take your time with it. Start slow. Here we go. And if that wasn't tough enough for you, let's try this at the album tempo. Wish me luck. So Danny does improvise within this kind of groove framework, but this is the idea just to get you started. Now, Danny has also been seen playing this groove on his acoustic drums, like you see in this clip. So Danny will follow the same idea as he does on the record, which we just went over how to play. But in that clip you just saw, he actually takes the right-hand part even further by using a 4-voice cycle that moves from floor tom 2 to the rototom to floor tom 1 back to the rototom. So just like we were playing that pattern on the mandala pads, we're literally just moving that pattern over to the acoustic drums. And this is something you'll also see Danny play on songs like Pneuma as well. Let's see if I can do this. All right, the last groove we're looking at is from the song Pneuma off of the Fear Inoculum record. And this is another pretty crazy track, and I highly recommend you go check it out if you haven't heard it already. There's a bunch of crazy stuff happening in there. Really cool grooves, fills, polyrhythms, and all that good stuff. But here we're just looking at one section from the chorus to get you started. This part of the song cycles between 12/8, 11/8, and 10/8. And with the notation on screen, you'll see that we've just split these up into combinations of 5/8 and 6/8, just to make it easier to read. The toughest part about this one is definitely the hi-hat openings because they're played in all these weird places, but they line up perfectly with the vocal, so you want to make sure that those are spot on. Let's try this out at a slow tempo. Once you've got that, let's bump this up and see what it sounds like up to speed. So hopefully you enjoyed diving deeper into these Danny Carey drum grooves, and hopefully you take some of these grooves to your kit and start working on them yourself. Now, down in the comments, I'd love to know which one of these grooves was your favorite, and maybe there's some other Tool songs that you'd like to see broken down as well. So let me know if you'd like to see another video breaking down more of these crazy Danny Carey drum grooves. I also filmed a video on the genius of Danny Carey if you want to know more about what makes Danny such a unique and important drummer. And if you're looking for note-for-note Tool transcriptions and you want the ability to slow them down and practice with them, we've got tons of those songs inside of Drumeo, including songs like Pneuma, Schism, and the Grudge. So just click the link in the description to check those out. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.